Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where the future of the creator economy rewards creators who think like founders, sell without selling their soul, and survive yet another platform update. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. How do you end up running a company when all you really wanted to do was build something cool? Anybody relate to that? For a lot of leaders, entrepreneurship isn't a master plan. It's a series of uncomfortable steps taken because the challenge was too interesting to ignore, or the problem so big it had to be solved. Today, we're going to explore the journey from loving the craft to owning the outcome. You'll hear why building great products isn't the same as building a great business, and how leaning into discomfort, like leading people, talking to customers, taking responsibility for revenue, often becomes the moment everything changes. The conversation is going to dig into why real growth starts when teams stop building what's interesting and solving what actually matters to customers. We'll also look at AI not as a shiny feature, but as a foundational building block, something that reshapes how companies operate when paired with the right problems, data, and ownership. And you'll hear why breaking down silos between engineering, marketing, and sales isn't a culture initiative, it's a growth strategy. If you've ever found yourself accidentally stepping into leadership, wrestling with a gap between product and business, or wondering how to scale without losing your love for building, today's episode offers a refreshingly honest look at what it really takes to turn challenges into companies. Our expert guest last Thursday was Radhika Dutt, author of Radical Product Thinking. She challenged one of the most entrenched beliefs in business, that goals and targets drive progress. Drawing from her work across 40 countries and multiple acquisitions, Radhika explained why KPIs and OKRs often backfire, and how puzzle solving, guided by her framework, observe, hypothesize, learn, and adapt, leads to deeper insights and more sustainable growth. A masterclass in thinking, not just measuring. So good. And our founder last week was Mark Walker, CEO of New. He joined us to reframe how modern SaaS companies should think about revenue. He unpacked why revenue is a life cycle, not a set of disconnected tools, and why billing belongs at the center of the RevOps stack. From unified CPQ and billing to agentic AI, Mark shared how companies can eliminate revenue leakage and move at the speed today's markets demand. If you missed either episode, go back and check those out. My guest today is Ryan Debenham, CEO of Grin, the world's first and leading creator management platform. And he's a leader whose career has been shaped less by grand plans and more by leaning into hard problems. Ryan started as a software engineer, eventually leading AI and data analytics at Qualtrics, where his work contributed to the company's $8 billion acquisition by SAP. From there, he stepped into a CTO role at Route, helping scale the company to $100 million in revenue in just 4 years. He later joined Grin as CTO, overseeing product and engineering before being promoted to president and ultimately CEO. Welcome someone who's built at every layer of the stack, Ryan Debenham. Hey, Ryan, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to be here.
You started your career as a software engineer, and now you're leading one of the most prominent platforms in the creator economy. What was the inflection point where you knew you wanted to go from building products to building companies?
It's a good question. I actually just wrote about this the other day, that becoming a CEO was not part of my plan. I've always loved building product. When I was growing up, deciding to go to the university, I thought about building companies along those times. But honestly, it wasn't the company that was interesting. It was the product that was interesting. So what would typically happen is I would build a product and then never build a company for that product. And So I would say the shift was as I started to realize that I had a skill set that I think got stronger as I evolved more towards supporting different parts of the business. And I got pulled towards more of supporting different parts of the business. It just naturally fell into that role. I had a mentor once that said, don't pick your job based on the title. Don't pick your job purely based on the money. Just follow the opportunities that challenge you. And ultimately, you will wind up in the best place. And that's what I would say would happen. Fell into this role. I wasn't searching for this role. I love a good challenge. I'm very comfortable being uncomfortable ultimately.
That's
And I
great.
seek out those opportunities. And this happened. And I would say at this point, I absolutely love it. I love managing people, as crazy as that may sound. I find it really exciting to build a good team and to see how a team of people are able to accomplish something really amazing. Yeah, that's how I ended up here. I'm sure we'll dive into more parts of that, but yeah, it wasn't a scripted career path. It was one step after the next.
I love that. Accidental entrepreneurs. That happens a lot where you see an opportunity or build a product or see a problem and it's like, I can fix that. I can create a solution that's better than that and end up, you got a product and then company. And that's really
Yeah,
interesting that you built things that built products before, but not companies. What happened to those products?
they died.
Sad.
I I know. As I think back about that, it's, hey, I could have built Uber. I had an idea back 20 years ago to offer like a ride sharing sort of product and started to build something, in that lane. Ultimately, especially if you've watched the Uber documentary, that was hard. Like what they had to do was not just build a product,
Right.
like they had to go really figure out how to solve some hard problems out in the world in order to make that possible. And I think at the time those didn't interest me. What interested me was building something. Like I was a software engineer,
Yeah.
and another product that I built that honestly to this day I don't think has been solved very well is a better way to categorize photos that you take. And what I was building was a way that you could tag those photos so that later when you wanted to find photos that had a certain, it's like, I want photos of when I visited this place or
Yeah.
of when we were vacationing or when we were water skiing or like your iPhone, you can do a little bit of that, but it's still it still really sucks.
Yeah.
And so I built something where you could tag those photos. And the problem with that one was tagging your photos is just a lot of work and
It
you do it for
is.
a little bit and then you stop doing it. And then today, I actually think that problem could be solved really well with AI today.
Yeah.
And I believe it will be. I'd say I got the interest out of me, the creative part out, and then never took the next leap of, okay, now let's go block and tackle and figure out how to make this something. Then I got into the world of startups, and the first startup I joined was Qualtrics, and I stuck with them for about 5 years, and they went from a Series A until they sold to SAP for $8 billion, and that was a wild ride.
Yeah.
I saw that company go through a variety of evolutions, and I played a big part of it. Built their data and analytics and AI features, and built a lot of the software that powered their enterprise movement, and worked with some unbelievable people. Got a lot of great mentorship, and at the end of that experience, I had more of this sense of how do you actually build a business? How did Qualtrics go from a product with a lot of potential to becoming something that really defined a category that was lasting at the end? And that was fun. And so when I left Qualtrics, I joined another startup wanting to do the same thing. I joined as their CTO. The company was called Route. And similarly, we built Route from really an idea into, before I left, about $100 million business.
Wow.
And I was the CTO, so I wasn't overseeing the broader business itself. I was just overseeing the technology and product. But again, started going to board meetings, started helping figure out how to secure funding. And that was really exciting. And so when I left and joined the next experience again as the CTO, I had a very rich experience. And I think Brandon, the former CEO and founder, just realized, hey, Ryan's got more than just technology. that he's experienced. He understands fundraising, he understands business operations, he understands people and culture. And what I was not particularly strong at, just lacking experience, was go to market. But Brandon was at a point in his career where he was ready to do something different. And as Brandon and I built trust, he floated the idea by me. He said, "Hey, what do you think about running Grin as the president?" He said, "I would still be involved, but you would largely run all of operations and report into me." And that was a unique challenge. And
Yeah.
again, it falls back to, I always chase the challenge more so than the title or the money. To me, it was, this is the chance to be responsible for go to market. I've not done that. That would really broaden my skill set and be an interesting experience. So I took it on and made sure that he knew. And in fact, the board too. I said, I've not run go to market. I've not run sales. I've not run finance. I've not run marketing. I've worked side by side with these departments throughout my career. So I have a sense of how they operate. It's going to be a learning experience for me. And everyone was supportive of that. That change for me happened about a year and a half ago. And then within about 8 months, Brandon said, "Hey, you're doing a good job. What do you think about taking over as the CEO?" And then that change happened around the beginning of this year. These things just happened. And now in this seat, I would say I do think I've found what feels like the right home for me. I think running a company is the ultimate expression of my creativity because it's holistic.
Yeah.
It's, hey, what can we do? We are a business that provides value to somebody. And that's more than product. That's product and service and go to market. And what customers are we going after? What is the broad vision? What are we chasing in the future? And being able to be creative about that entire life cycle of a business is, I think, the kind of the ultimate step. And I'm having a lot of fun.
That's awesome. What's the biggest mindset shift from moving from engineering to the CEO seat?
Yeah. I would say that what I have learned the most is that engineers, and for that matter, honestly, the whole product team is really not as connected with go to market as it needs to be.
Mm,
And at the end of the day, the business has to make money. And you have a revenue leader or a sales leader or a customer success department, or you have various functions that are responsible for the revenue of the business, either retaining the revenue or bringing new revenue into the business. And they feel tremendous pressure in order to meet the customer's needs. And the product team, at least in the companies that I've worked for, does not have that same pressure. They are a partner. They may go and have meetings with and understand what the needs are, but until that dollar, the retention amount or the new dollar is your responsibility, until you are responsible for that dollar, you will never feel the same urgency or the same ultimate need to build something correctly that ultimately serves the customer's need the best that you do without it. And so when I took over as president, and suddenly the monthly revenue goals, the customer retention goals, suddenly those were my numbers, that if we missed, I missed, and if we hit, I hit.
yeah.
That connected the dots for me in this ultimate way, where now it was like, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't build that, or maybe we should build that.
Yeah.
And that, of course, you don't want to be overreactive. I think one of the I know one of the ideas of leaving some separation between these departments is that at the end of the day, you don't want to be just a highly reactive product department. You want to have a vision and you want to go get that vision. But still, for me, what it connected was just a much deeper desire to understand what the customer really needs. Because in order to really retain them or be effective at getting them to buy your product, you have to meet those needs. And you have to, and it's honestly, it's kind of hard to explain, because I would say that's the job of a product manager, but I still never felt the same pressure.
Right.
I still was
Right.
like, half of that pressure was like, what's going to be cool to build? Okay, they say what they want, but what are we going to go build? And it's not until you're responsible for it that you really connect the dots in the same way. So that's been the biggest mindset shift for me, is now that number is mine, that the ultimate P&L, that the dollars of the business are my responsibility. I feel like it's connected me to the customer in an even more rich way. And what I've done about it is I've tried to connect the entire company to the customer in that way. I've got all of my engineers sitting with product marketing and sitting in front of customers, meeting with customers, and we'll have discussions that I really never participated in when I was not in this role with engineers about, what is this going to do to our go to market? How are we going to take this product to market? And just bringing a richer dialogue to more people, because the more that your engineers can understand the real problems of the business or the real problems of the customers, the more that they will know what needs to be built to solve them. And ultimately, we do rely on these engineers and product teams to build the products. And if they don't have the same level of understanding, then there's going to be a disconnect in what gets built.
Really good. Great insights into that and just the transition, how you're viewing it differently. I love being connected to the customer. I don't think there's anything more important than really having that deep understanding, the understanding what it is that they want, where they're going, and not just to let them dictate it, but that you're building along with them. So you're not just
Yeah.
building something in a vacuum and hoping they like it, but there's a give and take there. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important to stay connected in the big chair.
Yeah. Yeah. And you made a point there that sticks out a little bit, which is it's a different level of understanding. It's not just like sitting down with a customer and they say, I'd really like this button or I'd really like
Right.
this feature. It's deeper than that.
Yes.
And as a product, and I think maybe that's the distinction, because as a product manager, you will listen and they will say, we need this thing. And you'll try to map that into your goals. And then you'll build the requirements for it and you'll work with engineers and you'll build it. When you have ultimate responsibility for the outcome of the business, I think you dig deeper than what the customer's saying,
Yes.
but make sure you understand what they want. But you have to dig deeper, because not only do we need to meet this customer's need, but we need to meet the business need as well. And are they aligned? Is what the customer is asking for, is that going to drive the ultimate result that we need as a business as well? It, at Qualtrics, we built a product that would do text analytics of survey responses. And so Qualtrics was a survey platform, and probably half, if you go into your email inbox and type Qualtrics, you probably have a bunch of emails from them, because you get these customer satisfaction
Yep.
surveys or employee satisfaction surveys. Big companies would get millions of survey responses, and a lot of these survey responses are open form text. Can you just yeah,
Yeah.
can you describe your experience? And so you do. Well, today I'm envious of what can be done today at that company, because today with LLMs, you have a very rich model that can bring intelligence into the problem solving of this. But at the time, we were trying to figure out, what are people talking about? So what are the core themes? And then how do they feel about it? Seems like a really simple question. And today you go into ChatGPT, put a blob of text in there and say, what are the main themes and how do they feel about it? And it would,
Yep.
in a moment, it would nail it. But 10 years ago, that was a hard problem. That was a really hard problem. And so we were trying to solve that problem. And I remember working closely with my product manager, and we built a topic analysis tool. We built a tool that would do sentiment analysis, and we really struggled to build a product that met the business's need. And I remember the co-founder, his name is Jared Smith, coming and working directly with me and trying to guide me, trying to help me understand that what we were building was not meeting the business's need. And I did make a lot of progress through his support and mentorship there. But ultimately, we went through round after round where he would look at what we had built and it's not going to do it. It's not there. You're not there. You're not there. You're not there. You're not there. And I remember feeling a bit lost at the time. Just this is what design gave us. So this is what we're building. It doesn't matter what design gives you. You're the engineering leader. You are ultimately responsible for what gets built. If you don't have a deeper connection into what the business needs and ultimately what the customer needs, then you're going to build the wrong product. And we ended up building the wrong product. We probably spent 6 months building the wrong product, and we had to build it again. And we built it very different the second time because we really just at the end of the day misunderstood what the business needed and what the customer needed, even though we had sat next to them and asked them time and time again. And so, anyways, just this awakening throughout my career of how disconnected sometimes product and engineering teams can be.
Yeah.
And I don't think it really made the connection, like I said, until suddenly the board was expecting me to hit the company numbers. And that made the ultimate connection of, okay, I've got to understand this at a very deep level. And I have to connect all the dots, not only about what customers are asking for, but what is going to make this business a success.
So good. There's so much to unpack just in that alone. I think of it just the transition using a cooking analogy is if you're a chef and when you're in the role, whether it's engineer or product manager, you're really working a lot with the ingredients and figuring out what that is. And as you move up, head chef, restaurant owner, you're a lot more concerned about what all those ingredients make. It's a final product. And I think it's a lot
Yeah.
the same in the CEO role. So it's not the features and the specific things down in the weeds, but it's more strategic. Where are they going as a company?
Yeah.
What do they need? What are the tools they're going to need when they get to, for that next stage of growth? As they continue
Yeah.
to move, as the market changes, where do we need to be? And figuring that out and working with them and wrestling with those bigger challenges.
I think that's a great analogy because the ingredients of a particular meal are like the product requirements.
Yeah.
And so the chef, not the head chef, but the chef that's using the ingredients and creating the meal is following those requirements and building what's asked for. What I think is so powerful is when you can bring more of that strategic thinking, which ultimately I think that the best way to get somebody there is to help them feel responsible for it. It's really hard to get somebody to think about something, to think about solving a problem that they're not responsible for.
Yes.
But if you can bring some sense of responsibility for the outcome, which at the end of the day is the revenue and retention of a business's customers, then you can get more creative minds thinking about problems in the right way. And when you have a large investment into product and engineering, and if that large, and I feel like I get to cheat a little bit because I am an engineer. And so as an engineer, I actually I go to all of my engineer stand-ups every single day, still as a CEO. And it was funny because for a while, I had to break the ice a little bit where they're like, you're the CEO. I'm like, no, think of me as an engineer. And if I have a bad idea, you tell me it's a bad idea. And when I have a good idea, then that's great. And so I do feel like I get to cheat a little bit because many CEOs don't have the luxury of having that technical background. And so it's hard to get in and have the same discussions that I'm able to have. But ultimately, I think it's critical because I think it's when you have such an important part of the company's investment and strategy with a team that does not have the full understanding of what the business needs, then you end up with some subset of what ultimately the founder or CEO wants to accomplish. The founder or CEO or revenue leader, they've got an idea in their mind of what they need, and you end up with some derivative of that. And I think if you can connect departments in a richer way and bring people together where there's less isolation. I think every business I've ever been to, there's like tension between product management and marketing and customers.
Right.
And it's just like that tension will kill the business.
It will.
Like,
Yeah.
and the tension exists because you've got people responsible for the outcome feeling like the team that they rely on to solve the problem is not seeing the picture,
Right.
right? We need this. And the other person's okay, yeah, but we're not getting it.
Yeah.
And so anyways, it's always hard when you're working with large organizations because you have just people are an unstructured problem. People are it's hard to design an organization that works perfectly. But anyways, for me, I will forever try to blur the boundaries and lines between these departments, because right now my marketing team and my engineering team are connected at the hip every single day.
That's awesome.
And same thing with, we don't have a traditional sales team. So we have shifted to become a product led sales organization. And the product has become self serve, and it's much more of a, hey, come in and self onboard and swipe your credit card and pay for it that way. But ultimately, every part of our organization that interacts with solving that problem is connected in a much more rich way than I ever experienced as I was working in the past. And we'll see how it all works out, but it seems to be getting very good results for us.
That's awesome. And you talked about LLMs. You've been in this space for a long time, multiple companies, and it is a foundational shift. Where we are today, light years from when you were talking about doing things in Qualtrics and dealing with unstructured data. Yeah. How are you thinking about building with AI differently today at Grin than you did in previous roles?
I believe that we are presented with a similar opportunity right now that I think you could compare to the development of electricity, the understanding of how to use electricity.
Yeah.
Or like the development of the CPU, the central processing unit, where by itself, a CPU by itself is worthless.
Right.
Right. A CPU is like a little calculator, but when provided with the appropriate surrounding infrastructure and connected hardware and things like that, suddenly you can bring logic to life. Like you can organize logic in a way that obviously is transforming the world. Electricity, similarly, you harness electricity and apply it in the right way, and you can actually animate matter. You can bring things to life.
Right.
I think about LLMs as a similar building block that will have a similar transformation on the world, where it by itself, it is an interesting technology, but it's not particularly valuable by itself. And if you think about it as a building block, and you provide the necessary surrounding infrastructure and tooling and patterns, I believe that an LLM is a unit of intelligence that can become highly intelligent software and products. And we are just stumbling into it today. And there's a few maturing use cases. Chat is a maturing use case.
Yes.
And one that obviously has hundreds of millions of users now, because it solves a really interesting problem. In fact, I think we're still learning. It's been interesting to watch interviews with Sam Altman, because OpenAI and other leaders that are building these foundational models are just learning how people want to use them.
Right.
And it's amazing to see. But it's just one. Chat is just one example. I think coding is another example that's maturing.
Yes.
Coding with LLMs. And that it is transformational. My team, we all use Claude and Cursor.
Yeah.
And AI itself, and I do think models will get better. It has no idea what to build. You can, if you describe a problem perfectly, then I think it will build a perfect solution. If you understand all the parameters that it's operating, it has a limited context window, and it only knows what you tell it. And AI doesn't really intuit things.
Right.
And so when there's people that are frustrated about what AI does, I would say that's because you lack understanding of what AI is capable of doing. And you didn't properly describe the problem, and you expected it to do too much. But you learn what those boundaries are, and you start to use AI in the ways that it is good, then I think that it is orders of magnitude. I think you have the potential to be orders of magnitude more efficient.
Without a doubt.
And I go back to when engineers used to write code with assembly language, and then modern programming languages evolved. And today, if you went to hire an engineer and they said, I'll do it in assembly language, you'd be like, what?
Exactly.
Like, no, go use a modern language, like Node.js or Golang, or use something that has a whole ecosystem built around it of libraries and developer
Exactly.
tools, and you'll be orders of magnitude more efficient if you use something that's not assembly language. And I believe we're at the same shift for engineers, which is today there's still a lot of engineers that are like,
Exactly.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to do it. And I've required my organization to use it. If you want to be an engineer at Grin, you are using AI tooling. And I had an engineer actually quit over it, said, I feel too much pressure. And then they came back. They said, you know what, I made a mistake. And so I actually have not had anyone quit that didn't come back. But I believe similarly, engineers in a handful of years, you'd never get hired if you didn't know how to use AI coding
Exactly.
tools, because you can be orders of magnitude more efficient. And so these are these maturing use cases. But you step outside of that and you have a whole bunch of mix of hype and product ideas and visions that are actively being developed, and you have best patterns and practices, and it's all evolving right now. And I think you maybe heard Elon Musk, he describes it as the tsunami of AI is coming.
Yes.
And I think I do think part of that is models getting better, but I think a large part of that is is product builders using intelligence in their software to bring a bunch of additional use cases into the market. And I think that I agree, the tsunami is coming. I think that you will see entire functions that run off of humans today largely automated, and with agents that actually reason. If you take an LLM and you apply it in the right way, and you give that LLM a memory system so that it can refer to what it has done in the past, and it can evolve and get better. And then you introduce other agents that it can interact with that potentially can evaluate what one has done, or challenge almost a team. Like you can actually, and I talk about it online sometimes. I feel like we're building a product that's alive. I really do. You look at our product, we've given what we refer to her, because the agent that we're building, we call her Gia, but we've given her a journal, and she journals every day for every one of the campaigns that she's running. She has a journal, and she works with a team of agents, and those agents also journal. And then they run a daily stand-up process, and every day the agents meet. And this might sound far out, but this is really happening, and it works. These agents meet together, and they review their prior day's observations, and then they collaborate and they produce a plan, and then they create action items in order to achieve their plan. And and they journal about it, and they write down what went well, what are we observing, and what needs to happen tomorrow. And then they go through this process over and over again every single day. And I am watching the system literally come to life. And it's the most crazy thing I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
I can actually sit down with Gia and have a conversation and say, what are you learning? And she will tell me what she's learning. I can ask her what ideas she has to make the product better, and she will tell me what features she thinks I need to build. I'm not joking. It's insane.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. That's it. Are you missing key relationships that could transform your leadership? Most leaders are. They just can't see it. And here's what shocked me: the most successful leaders aren't lone heroes. They're the center of four specific relationships that multiply their impact while preserving their sanity. You're probably like everybody else, drowning in connections, but starving for real support. And it's creating a silent epidemic of leadership burnout among executives just like you. So, take my free assessment at thecaptainskeys.com. Discover which critical relationships you're missing in under 5 minutes, and then grab my new book, The Captain's Keys, part Netflix drama, part game changing blueprint for leadership that actually sustains you. One CEO called it the owner's manual I never got. So stop flying blind and see what you're missing. And let's talk a little bit about that in Gia and the problem that you solve. I think it's fascinating in just one, what you're solving and then how you're doing it. In automating influencer marketing, reducing the barriers to entry, connecting brands and influencers, which I think is incredibly difficult. And you've made it pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Influencer marketing is an interesting category because for three to 4 years ago, there was tremendous interest in the category, and a lot of venture capital investment dollars flowed into the category.
Right.
And then the interest died off, and the interest died off because I think what people believed was going to be the next big thing tapered off. The expectations weren't hit. And Grin went from a very small company to one that was valued at nearly $1 billion, and the revenue was just going like this in just a couple of years. And what ended up happening was Grin was an amazing product. And the early customers, which were largely customers that already understood how to do influencer marketing, that needed supportive software in order to help them run and operationalize it, they absolutely loved it. Grin was the best thing on the market, and it was innovating like crazy. Well, what ended up happening was you moved beyond those customers that were already running successful influencer programs into the market of customers that wanted to run successful influencer programs. So
Yeah.
more of the aspirational customer, and they started to buy Grin. And the problem was they have a high failure rate. Many of
Hmm.
them do not end up running influencer marketing successfully, and the investment does not pay off for them. And therefore, it's hard to retain them, right? So if they buy the software and they don't find success with influencers, then they not only leave your platform, but they oftentimes leave the category, the channel. They put their
Yeah.
dollars somewhere else.
It
And,
didn't
and so
work.
it didn't work.
Yeah.
And for Grin to have a good, viable, growing, exciting business, we can't have heavy retention issues like that. We can't have high churn. And so we have to figure out how to make it so that most of our customers succeed. So if somebody wants to do influencer marketing, we're going to help them do it successfully. And those are just hard problems because in a marketing department, you typically have a handful of experts that are running paid media campaigns or doing creative work or setting strategy. And that's a problem that you can wrap your head around and solve.
Sure.
In influencer marketing, you might be working with hundreds, if not thousands, of independent people. And I would say that problem is orders of magnitude harder. Just like people are unstructured. And when you require people to do something to deliver a result, and you have to work with hundreds or thousands of them, then that becomes an incredibly hard problem. Very heavy operational problem, requires a tremendous amount of expertise of a team that knows how to do it and what they're doing, what to look for, what to expect, how to manage, how to track. And therefore, software that provides support itself is not enough. And so at Grin, we believe that the unlock here, it's not that the category is not going to work. The category is going to work. It's that the unlock is we need AI to do the vast majority of it. We need AI to do the heavy lifting, bring the expertise and the operational support necessary to make running an influencer campaign no more work than it is to run a paid media campaign. And that's very possible, but it does require AI because these influencers, they need support, they need to be coached, they need expectations set, they need to be communicated with. There's the content needs to be tracked. Like that, there's just a lot of things that a human would do that an AI is capable of doing. And that's what we're focused on building. And we are seeing tremendous results already. The product is in alpha. We have 10 customers using it daily. And we are rapidly working with Gia and our customers to make sure that she meets all the needs that they have. But I believe that it will be a big shift it'll make this type of marketing much more of a viable solution for most brands.
That is very cool. And a lot of companies that have tried this and the bubble, they built for the merchant side and forgot about the creator. I mean, what does it look like to really build a two-sided creator platform that serves both?
I feel strongly that you have to. And in fact, I'd say that there's not many companies that have done much for the creator. One that has is ShopMy, and ShopMy's crushed it, right? ShopMy built for the creator. They built a solution that allows creators to build stores and connect through affiliate platforms like Rakuten and others. And creators love it. And because creators love it, they go and they use it, and where the creators are, the brands go. And so
Yeah.
Shopify has done a really good job. You look at platforms, and Grin is one of them. You look at Grin and platforms like Grin, and there's just been very little attention to the creator. It's we can create tasks, we can assign work, we can pay them, we can track what they've done, but beyond that, there's not much support for them. And I believe that's a massive hole, because ultimately we are relying on the creator to achieve the result. And so if we're not supporting them and helping them do a good job, then I think we've left the most important part out of the
Mm.
solution. And so just a really simple example, say you're running a creator affiliate program, and what you end up seeing is, first part of the problem is, I need to find creators. Okay, we can make creator discovery more simple for you and bring creators to you. So let's say now we have a good flow of creators that are interested in working with us. What happens once you activate a creator? Maybe you send them a gift. What happens between the point where they've accepted to work together and the point where they produce content? What happens is many of them don't. Many of them don't produce content, or they do produce content and the content like misses the mark.
Yeah.
It's not really aligned with the brand, or it doesn't really hit. And I don't think that I don't think the creators are trying to do something wrong. It's just creators aren't necessarily trained to be salespeople. They've captivated an audience for one reason or another, but can they create content that converts people? That's not something that they've necessarily been trained to do. And so you see a lot of creators producing content that ultimately doesn't convert. And then once that they've produced content, it doesn't convert. Now what? Now what is, a lot of them then never do anything else. And so what happens is, the brand, they found a creator, maybe they sent him a gift, maybe the creator posted some content, nothing happened, and then nothing else happens in the future. You can see why a brand is, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if this works. And then you get people talking about, it is so much work to run the program, because, okay, now I've got to manage all these people. Hey, did you get the gift? Do you like it? When are you going to post? Then hey, okay, you posted. When are you going to post again?
Right.
The post didn't, and imagine having to do that with hundreds of people. It's, it's not really tenable, unless you have dialed processes and a team that has the expertise in how to do it. And most brands don't.
Yeah.
And most brands give it a shot and it doesn't end up paying off. And so these are the problems that we have to solve. How do you find a good creator that has a good potential, or has a good audience overlap with who your target customers are? And then how do you activate them? And then how do you keep them engaged? And then how do you coach them and make sure that you're teaching them how to produce content that is going to help them make money? That there's a lot there, and creators need a tremendous amount of support, and we're going to lean into it.
Love that. Yeah. How do you see AI democratizing influencer marketing and really making it accessible? Because you mentioned like there's a few that do really well. Maybe, I don't know, top 10% of creators and top 10% of brands, but there's a huge market out there. How are you making that accessible to everybody else and bringing them in and making it work well for them?
The biggest insight that we have at Grin into this is that, if you were to think about influencer marketing, you're really probably thinking about maybe the top 10%, but probably like the top couple of percent. The top couple percent of that have a social profile that has a decent number of followers and an audience, and really working with just kind of that small group. And you go to Shopify and others, and you're largely dominated by the sort of creators that have made it, right? And I think that leaves 99% of influence out of the picture. So if I think about influence, what is influence? Influence is me and you talking, and you influencing me, or me influencing you. It's like you get together with a group of people and you say, those are sweet shoes. And it's, oh yeah, I absolutely love them. I bought them here. That might turn into a sell, right? I think, in fact, I know this has been studied. People are much more likely to buy something that is recommended by somebody they trust than they are if they were to just get recommended by an unknown source on the internet or some sort of advertisement. And so influence is incredibly powerful. And influence, everybody is an influencer. I do believe everybody is an influencer. If you think about the term broadly of I have influence over you and you have influence over me. And so then the question is, and then the idea of democratizing is how can you capture that? Can you capture that?
That's good.
Is there a way to to capture, incentivize, and reward influence that happens every day between hundreds of millions of people? And we believe there is. We believe that a good example is my brother-in-law does a lot of ultra marathon running. And recently over the summer, I was crazy enough to sign up and to run one of them with him. And I asked him, I said, hey, what gear do you use? I don't want to get out on the trail and get blisters and realize I have the wrong gear. What do you use? And he started listing, I use this and this. And so on one side, he influenced me and I did buy some of the gear. On the other side, he couldn't remember like what he bought or where he bought it. It's like, I got these socks. Get toe socks. You need toe socks. Which toe socks? I don't know. You know, just you go buy some. So I view that as a missed opportunity where one, it wasn't easy for him to share his favorite gear with me. And two, when I bought it, there was no attribution. There was no reward. He didn't get anything for that, even though he did help the Solomon running bag. I did go buy the same bag, but he didn't get rewarded for that. And the realization though is that every brand in the world is willing to pay to acquire a new
Of
customer.
course.
Every brand in the world. And so they would have paid him. They would have paid him
Yeah.
10%, whatever. And so where's the connective tissue? How do you bring the fact that there is demand, the brands are willing to pay for it, there is supply, people influence people every single day. What's the connective fabric that brings these entities together and allows a market to exist? And I believe there's a solution for it. We're going to go tackle it.
That's cool. Yeah, it's really tracking, attributing, and rewarding all of the micro influencers, the word of mouth
Yeah.
marketing. Do you think that the
Yeah.
future of affiliate marketing and influencer marketing is on a collision course or maybe merging into something new?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's on a collision course. There is more to influencer than just driving sales. There's brand building, there's awareness. And so I think there will always be different ways of working with influencers. And I still think that there will always be a world where you work with elite influencers too. I think of an elite influencer as somebody that has managed to create a large audience for whatever reason, whether they're an expert in one thing or another. And many times these can become critical partners to your brand, right? And I used to be a professional snowboarder, which really means I was an influencer,
Yeah.
right? I was compensated by brands like DC and others to use their gear and show up at contests and film videos so that I would influence people to buy their gear. So I was an influencer, and that there's absolutely a world for many different ways of working with these people in one capacity or another. But I believe they're on a collision course because at the end of the day, I think it all powers word of mouth. What we're really trying to capture with influence is word of mouth. I think this is a great brand. This brand stands for these values.
Yeah.
You should buy this product. It is all influence through word of mouth in one channel or another, micro word of mouth interactions or more macro. And I think that these things being run by separate teams and managed by separate people and often powered by separate platforms has left a huge gap. And I think that by bringing them together, by rebuilding something to support people powered marketing, word of mouth marketing, I think that it can become something really critical for brands, a really critical channel for brands in the future.
Very cool. Where can people learn more about you and about Grin online?
You can visit grin.co or grin.ai, and we're going to bring those two worlds together here soon. Grin has a platform that has for a long time been a leading platform in the category, just what we would call like a creator management platform, a holistic solution for working with creators. But we are building a new product, and we call it GIA, or Grin.ai is where we talk about it. But you can go to either one of those. We're going to bring them together. And I talk often on LinkedIn. I depends on, sometimes I'll describe even to my team, I say, I'm going into the black hole of writing code. I need to go build something, and I'll be in a black hole for a little bit, but I'll come back out, and I talk a lot about whatever's on my mind, which is oftentimes product or business or honestly being a dad. I have 4 kids, so being a dad, navigating being a CEO and a dad. I talk about a lot of these things online, so you can follow me on LinkedIn, and yeah, would love to connect with people.
Very cool. I'll make sure and link that in the show notes. Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
Absolutely, Jeff. Great conversation.
Thanks again, Ryan, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources. You can learn more about Ryan and Grin at grin.ai. And yes, it's spelled exactly like you'd think, grin.ai. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel as well. It's at Champion Leadership. And you can find full video episodes, outtakes, shorts, reels, lots of information over there for you, even some training. So go check that out at Champion Leadership on YouTube. Thought leaders share. Share this episode with the founder who says, we're moving fast, but hasn't shipped since the last fiscal quarter. Everyone who shares this week gets a ship alarm clock. It goes off every morning at 6 a.m. yelling, still not live, until something launches. What if technical experts stopped underselling themselves and started shaping the future? Next up, Alistair Gordon, founder of Expertunity, joins us to challenge how organizations treat subject matter experts. With decades of experience coaching SMEs globally, Alistair explains why technical specialists are the real backbone of modern organizations and how they can increase influence, impact, and professional satisfaction without losing their edge. And then 1 week from today, what does it look like to build companies that include AI analytics and real-world impact before it was fashionable? Well, coming up, KG Charles Harris, founder and CEO of Quario, joins us to share lessons from building startups across genomics, AI, and aquaculture, investing globally and using technology to give small to medium-sized businesses access to enterprise-grade intelligence. Both of those are going to be fantastic episodes. I will see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/saasfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.